What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. All right, guys, so you guys know what tonight is. It is another Talkin Tackle, guys. I have really been enjoying these guys. It's been a lot of fun. All these great people that I have been getting to meet, all the great people that, not even just meet, I've met, we've talked before, but like to actually get to talk to somebody on the phone, or on the FaceTime kind of thing, it's really cool. So I'm learning a lot. I hope you guys are enjoying them. But anyway, besides that, tonight's guest that we're gonna have, actually, let me just hold up there. The tackle that we're gonna be talking about, um, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, because we're just kind of all over the place. That's just really what it is. We talk a little bit more of Texas rigs and some swim baits, but we go all over the place. And the guest tonight, after you understand this part, you'll definitely, or after you hear this part, you will understand this part on why we just were everywhere. The guest tonight that we have is going to be Mr. Weston Smith. They gave you a warning there.
Yeah, presenting.
All right, so we are recording. We are here with the Mr. Weston Smith himself. I was just telling him, actually, Rach was just telling him before we got on camera that he's actually been one of the guys I've been watching since I really got into fishing. So for me, this is like, I feel like this is pretty big for me. I know we've been talking for a while too, on and off on Instagram. So to actually finally meet you in person, it's an honor. I appreciate you so much for coming on here. So introduce yourself, Weston. Let everybody know who you are. I know we're both ADHD, so be prepared for this one.
We'll be all over the place. And honestly, thank you so much for the compliments. I see I see your hard work. And so, yeah, this is a privilege to be on here with you. But hey, if y'all are unfamiliar with me, Weston Smith, which a lot are, right? I'm nobody special. I started doing some fishing vlogs after watching some of the Guggen Squad members back before it was Guggen Squad, right? Like Flair,
long time ago.
Alex Craig, when he was like really posting videos back in the day.
Yeah.
And I got this inspiration to start fishing out of nowhere because my wife was always getting fish off the hook for me. I don't know if you've heard the story before.
I think I remember that story from the beginning, like a long time ago. I feel like I remember that.
So I was just kind of trying to like look up how to hold a fish, and I started. I came across like one of Flair's videos out of nowhere, and I'm like, fishing never looked as fun as this. And so that kind of got me into wanting to start fishing and getting into the whole YouTube scene again. I had previously made some videos actually on this same channel, and they were all motorcycle videos, moto vlogs, where I had like a camera on the helmet and I was just cruising around town doing like amazing stuff. I think before they started demonetizing that. And so anyway,
I know you like to drum a lot too.
Oh yeah, play the drums. I try and jam to whatever the latest and greatest rock and metal is. Honestly, that's like my favorite stuff to play, but I'll jam out to whatever.
That's cool.
Skateboarding. I'm big into photography. That's kind of what ended up.
I know. Yeah, I love photography for sure.
So that helps out, I think, for sure when you're trying to do stuff like YouTube and understanding of aperture and shutter speed and all these different things, right?
Yeah.
It helps composition, blah blah blah.
Getting the right shot, getting the right, angle, the right speed.
Got to. And so, these days, I think on YouTube, we're up to like 46,250 subscribers.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's so cool, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Same for you on your 13 and change. And then on Instagram. And so and then on Instagram, we're at like 110. We've been kind of up and down with the swings, the mood swings.
That's how it goes, right? Especially as constant as Instagram changes.
So I haven't been posting as many reels lately as I should, because that seems to be how to grow over there.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to just stay consistent with the photos. It seems like for me, and I think a lot of folks too, that don't have a big following on YouTube, TikTok, etc., and they're just really have a big audience on Instagram, for them to continue growing right now, it seems like they have to be posting reels. If they post pictures, it just seems like they stay stagnant or even lose followers. I lose followers if I just post pictures. I post reels.
I have a constant up and down when it comes to follows and unfollows. I feel like, it's one of those, it's a struggle bus sometimes. I mean, that's just the reality behind it. But yeah, they talk about how it's good you should post at least one reel a day. And it's kind of like, I don't want to make the excuse and say it's tough, but it's one of those things you have to, it might be wise to like make a bunch at once and then just release them over time or something like that. But With fishing, that can be tough.
It can be very tough. I go through
Yeah.
mixed emotions on what's best though, like the quality or the quantity, because
Right.
as soon as reels were introduced, or not like right when they're introduced, but I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, or I've lost track of time now, but whenever you could really see some major virality posting almost anything, right? Just dumb stuff. Anything could pop off on a moment's notice. There was a lot of opportunity to just crank out numbers and
Yep.
post a
Yep.
reel a day. But I think now that more people are posting reels, they have to be more selective with what gets really pushed out,
Yep.
those viral clips. And so I do think you got to focus on some sort of quality in the mixture.
Some
So
kind. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of the newer things that happen, like eventually it's kind of like, how many can you do? And then when everybody's doing it, then it's not, they have to get selective. Like you said, at some point, you know, it has to be, you got to be putting good stuff out too, you know?
yeah, for me,
But
another example was stories. Like when stories were brand new, like I
mhm.
was intimidated to post stories. I'm like, what is a story, right? And I wasn't on like a Snapchat like
It's
crazy.
like Snapchat. Yeah.
It was like new. I was posting on Snapchat, but not like crazy. So like stories, I just wasn't as familiar, and I wanted my stories to look as good as some other people's I had seen posting them. But I was still pretty early on in the story game on Instagram. So what
Yeah.
had happened was I was like always at the top of my followers' feeds, like always, because I would post at least 5 stories a day. You know, I'd try and throw behind the scenes and get
Yeah.
consistent pictures. And I was like at that point in time posting 3 pictures per day too, on average.
I remember that.
Throughout
Yeah.
that whole year when I was really starting off my growth on Instagram. I think it was 2018 or it was going into 2019. I think it
Something
was,
like that. I
yeah,
remember when you were posting 3 times a day and you were talking about how that really got you a lot of growth
it
because you
was
were getting a lot of interactions with 3 versus 1.
it was like November 2018 is when I watched a video by Gary Vee talking about quantity over quality, because quality is subjective and how people perceive it as quality, it's different for everyone. So it's like
That's
just put
true.
quantity out there and you'll get those results. Nowadays it's different.
Yeah.
Reels, you got to post reels. But at that time, yeah, in 2019, hands down, I posted more than anybody in fishing. Like that's not reposted content, right? Like
You're
original.
right. You're original.
Yeah, it was
Right.
basically 1,000 posts in 2019. It was basically 1,000 posts. It was 3 per day on average. Some days I did 5 to catch up because I only posted one.
Right. 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 Right.
And I know that like IGTVs, I don't think counted towards the post count. You know, who cares? But anyway,
IGTV didn't take off like I think they hoped it would.
you know, I think there's been this promise of monetization on Instagram for a while,
Yep.
and now there is actually a little bit of monetization behind reels.
When
And
you do live, right? Oh, I thought when you went live. Yeah.
with badges, yep, that's I don't know if that's considered newer still, but like they definitely roll things out in waves. So
Yeah.
like I had access to badges pretty early on. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
you get one of the early, because they do like an early release to certain creators, and you have to go through like an email or process or something like that. And then they finally like, it's kind of like you were the beta version, and then
yeah.
they finally released it off to everybody in a sense. So like now you can get badges if you go live. I don't know if you have to have a certain follow count or anything like that. I've never actually gone live.
I think the advantage is you really need a lot of followers for that to be any sort of valuable income, because you know it at the current I think it's like $1, $3, and $5, $1, $3, and $5, and so you know you really got to have a lot of badges to create some sort of a decent income off of a live stream, right? Because
Yeah.
on YouTube you could do a super chat and it could be like for $500, right, or $100.
Yeah.
And got big chats, which is like the those payments towards your favorite creators on a YouTube live.
Yeah.
And
YouTube's the highest paying one out there, I believe.
for sure. And
Yeah.
so maybe I was early on that program, right? The badges, but
Yeah.
as far as getting paid for reels, I don't have access to that when quite a lot of other people do. And I've been getting a lot
See,
of
I didn't know that. I didn't know people could get paid for reels. That's new to me.
I need to do more research because there was like a short-term program they were doing where you could get up to, I want to say 800,000 views and get paid for that amount within a certain time period. So it was a little bit different. I don't know what's going on now, but I'm getting all these DMs are like, hey, are you getting paid for your reels? And so I think maybe it might be something long-term. And that's when people are going to start upping their quality probably and really trying to get those big clips.
Definitely, because you're going to want the views. That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of, you know, anything really. It's kind of like getting the views and getting the attention. That's part of being a content creator.
Yeah, getting the awareness out there around your brand and whatnot. So for sure. And so for us, it's fishing, right? So
for us, it's fishing. Right. So let's get back into fishing because, you know, that's what we're here for. It's fine.
You might
we can totally relate when it comes to content creating too. That's something else that I believe we're both passionate about. I'm actually going to be I'm upgrading my own content. I'm studying more on actually doing video edits. And I'm getting a drone soon, so that's going to become part of the game, and I'm ready for that. I have a kayak. I have a hard time figuring out how to tote it around. So we're figuring it out. I don't know if I'm going to get a vehicle, or it's a 14-foot and it's like super long. And yeah, I know everybody says that. It's a pedal drive. It's a great kayak. It has a lot of great things with it. It's just a little heavier than most. So
if you had like a 10-footer, you'd be in business, right?
Yeah, right. It's that extra few feet that'll get me.
Yep. That's tricky, but you'll find a way, and you'll get that thing out every day. Just drag it like a little sled or something. I don't know. Drag it.
Yeah. It's a matter of getting it on top of the car. That's the biggest thing, is the vehicle. I don't mind dragging it, and it's meant to be worn, kind of like, that's how I feel about shoes. They're meant to be out there, they're meant to be worn. You're supposed to use it. It's how it's supposed to be. It's a tool, it's helping you fish. So
yeah, I'm always across the pavement when most people are like, I wouldn't do that with my kayak. I'm like, well, she still floats.
Right. Yeah. There's no hole in it. It's fine.
But that would make it tough. And hey, on the drone, are you planning on like buying the latest and greatest? Because I'm telling you, you might crash this thing, so you might want to go cheap. Like
I'm not planning to. I'm keeping that one a little bit under wraps right now, because I'm actually teaming up with somebody. So we're gonna have a good collaboration there. We're gonna see how it goes on that. So, but it's some good ones. I'm excited for it. It's actually one that's more wrapped around actually creating cinema and things like that. So sweet. I'm excited to see it. I'm gonna get it here soon. We're gonna see. It's gonna come probably towards, I don't know, towards the end of February, mid-March, and we'll see how all the delivery service and all that great stuff, and when it'll actually get here.
That's very soon. That's very soon. Have you used some drones, like other drones, in your footage before, or no?
No, not in my footage. No. I have a little bit of experience as far as actually flying them. My brother actually has a lot of experience, so I'm probably going to end up, going over to him and working it out and learning, and putting some hardcore hours into actually learning it, because I've flown little ones before, and I've been around the bigger ones, but I haven't flown it like long term or anything like that. So I definitely want to get some practice hours in before just throwing it out there and breaking it.
For what we do, like if you're going from one pond to another pond and you kind of just show that segue through a drone clip, it really do it. Or if it's like a multi-day thing and you kind of show, you fly it up right at sunset and you kind of signify you're going from the night to then the next morning or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to tie it in with fishing that really helps, even though it's just,
I'm excited for it. I feel like it's going to be another, just kind of like how I feel about Talkin Tackle with guests and stuff now. It's just going to be one of those next level things that's going to come, and just one more thing to be excited about this year. So,
along with all the tackle coming out. Right. What about tackle?
What about the tackle? Right. We're going to get there. Say, we've already put it out there. We're ADHD on this. So, all right. So one of your favorite rigs, what are one of your favorite rigs that you can, if you're going out and it's something you just want to put on there right away?
It changes with the season, right? Because it seems like these bass, they want one thing for like a month at a time, and you only are throwing certain rigs, right? But for sure, we're out here in Texas, and I throw the Texas rig a lot. You almost got to have one tied on. There's a lot of wood, timber, a lot of structure. There you go. And some folks are just fishing grass or just fishing a hard bottom, and they don't have the same opportunity to get snagged like we do here.
Right.
So Texas rig, going weedless is a must, and you can rig it up so many different plastics with so many different plastics. It's like, it's so versatile. You can even swim the stuff if you got to, right? You can swim.
Right. You don't even have to have a weight on it and swim it. That's actually one of my favorite ways to fish the explode toad, is weightless Texas rig. And it just plop, 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 right over the top. I mean, I've nailed a 3 and a 4 pounder back to back on that thing. It just, poof. So can't beat it.
That's the way to fish those things right there.
Yeah, I believe so.
So Texas rigs are up there. I like throwing the big swim baits. Lately, what I've been doing is cranking. It seems like the last few times I get out, and crankbaits were like an early confidence bait for me.
Oh, yeah?
Small square bills, like 1.5s, like shallow divers. I was fishing those things in ponds, getting snagged, losing $7 like every 5 minutes, because I didn't really know about, I don't even think I had fished a chatterbait yet, or fished a lot of other alternative shallow water moving bait setups. And so I was throwing crankbaits, shallow divers, specifically fishing ponds for the longest time, just having a heyday, getting them lost. And I was throwing them on straight braid, 30-pound braid, bright colors, because I was like just trying to have bright colored braid for my fishing reels, for my bait
Yeah.
to kind of stand out in photos and stuff. So I was fishing all wrong for like the first year and a half.
That's funny.
Literally the first year to year and a half of my fishing vlogs, it's documented. I fish bright colored braids.
It's documented.
Straight to my Texas rigs and the drop shots and everything. There was no fluorocarbon, no monofilament. I had watched one video one time, and it was talking about how 30-pound braid was kind of like a good all-purpose braid for like crazy long casts and, you know, good enough strength to get the job done for a lot of things. And it was just one person's take on the whole idea. And so I only threw 30-pound braid. I was like, this is good line. This is good fishing line. This is what I'm going to buy. So I had this confidence in 30-pound braid, and I caught fish for a year and a half straight, bright colored braid. When people, the reason this could be like a, not controversial, but like a,
it can be, it can be.
Topic for some folks is because they're like, no, fish won't bite if they can see the line. And this is
right.
Like, this is line that those fish can see, right?
Yeah.
That you would only fish, maybe just keep it reserved for top waters and some other techniques. I was fishing thick grass, punching. We could go into that, but I was using it for everything. So yeah, there's that. I don't know if I used a spinning reel for the longest time in my videos either. I mean, yeah.
Strictly bait casters?
Strictly bait casters, because I was so intrigued by them. I had never seen a bait caster really before. Like when I was looking up these videos and kind of thinking maybe I want to start fishing here and there, it was like it was only throwing spinning combos that maybe like the catfish that you kind of set out there and the rod holders and, you know, kick back, wait for the fish to bite. Never really casting and reeling. I had never fished any like moving type of baits. It was always like a bobber with the worm on it when I was younger, you know, if I was gonna fish, if someone
old school. Yeah.
Old school. So I was intrigued by the bait casters. So I didn't use much but the bait casters because I was so caught up in like the braids screaming when you cast.
Yeah.
Superchargers. And
well, now you have the BFS reel too.
The BFS, yep, the bait finesse systems, Shimano's, and those I love, especially for video, because it's like those spinning reels. You hear that clicking drag. You know, you got a fish on the hook. It's like click, 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 click. You hear that. Well, it's not like that.
Yeah, it's like a ripping sound.
You know the deal. Yeah, like it's on madness, right?
Yeah.
You want to hear that. And so now there's those bait finesse systems reels that are gaining more popularity and getting introduced like rapid fire.
I mean, left and right now, it seems like. I'm planning on getting one at some point this year. It all depends on, you know, the rod that I intend to get and when that plans on coming and falling and dropping, and then I'll get that and figure that out. So
throw it on some cheap stuff. Just grab you something cheap, because those BFS rods get very expensive. So I throw ours on Twitch rods.
Yeah,
that's the lightest duty casting rod from Guggen right now. Otherwise, I'd throw it on a BFS dedicated one that I'm sure they'll come out with in the future.
Yeah, I feel like that, you know, that might be something because they create all the rods that they're already creating, and the way that BFSs are going, I wouldn't doubt that, you know, a lot of companies are coming out with. I know a company as well is going to be coming out with one, but I can't give that away yet because I was told to. But you know.
Some people are probably unfamiliar with them too, right? So it's like the BFS reels, they're recently introduced more to almost take the place of your spinning combo in some instances where you would throw lighter tackle, and they've just got these smaller, lighter spools. They're not meant to throw big, heavy baits. They're meant to just spool up with a real small fishing line, throwing the finesse, which just means kind of like downsized baits. Tactics for more bites. So we're throwing like small little swim baits on there.
Yeah, it's like a wider spool, right? Like it has a wider spool on it.
I don't know that it's any wider, but for sure. Okay, maybe like width wise, not wide, but it's just like it's almost like shallow.
It's not, it's not like it's not this big. It's like this big.
It's about that big, and there's so many little holes in it. Like
it's just a bunch of holes. Yeah.
Out of the spool, so a lot of weight reduction. But really, it's just a very shallow spool. So because it's thicker, it's very shallow. You can't put much line on this. If you
right.
20-pound fluorocarbon, you'd get a couple loops around there and you'd be done. So you got to put like 6, 8, 10-pound line.
Lightweight.
Very lightweight. Yeah, even 10 pounds. Some people are like that's.
It's like a little one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So something like 8 pounds. So when you're really dropping down and throwing for finesse, it's a fun little reel because you'll throw out that light stuff, and a 2-pound bass feels like a 3 to 5. Well, not a 3. It feels
good
like
fight.
a 5-pounder. Yeah, it literally.
Yeah.
A 2-pound bass will take you for a ride on that little BFS reel. They'll like run to the end of the spool sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exciting. A good fight's always fun, especially on some light line. I feel like, you know, you can get a pound or two and it's like fighting like a 4 or 5 pounder and you're just like, ah, can I even bring it in?
and so that's why, again, I mentioned it was good for video, right? And you know
Yeah.
it. But so like, you know, when you got that clicking drag and it just signifies, okay, you got to fight, you got a fish that's running with the line. And to be able to do that with smaller fish now, because it's like, okay, they're going to be fighting you just as hard on this lighter gear, you get that fun factor out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks are just going out there to ponds and catching these 1 and 2 pounders. Not everyone has access to a boat or goes out on the big water and can catch a 5, 10 pounder, you know? So it's like, oh, you can catch 5 pounders in ponds. You can catch
you can't.
A lot of folks are going out there trying to like just catch a fish in a day, you know, they're
At
like,
all. Yeah, just anything.
and so like these are like fun reels to go out there and to use. And so I know you had talked about maybe a company's coming out with one, but for your viewers, if they wanted something like right now, I really recommend that, because I love Shimano. Shimano's great. And so it's like, I really recommend that SLX just because it's kind of like their cheapest one. We bought the Corrado BFS at first, and now the SLX is out. And so it's one of the cheaper ones that I've found that's still good quality. So if people ask me, because I've gotten that question before, that's why I'm throwing it out, is like,
yeah, of course,
the Corrado or the SLX, I wouldn't even spend the extra money. I just go cheap and get one that's still going to be good. So yeah, that SLX one's pretty slick.
That's good. And I mean, it's putting good quality. And you said you got the Twitch rod, and that's because it's the finessiest rod that they have. And what's the length on that rod?
I think it's 6'6". I'm probably wrong. Maybe it's 6'10". I think it's 6'10".
Oh, Weston, you don't even know the length.
No, I think it's 6'10". I think it's 6'10", medium, moderate. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's the shortest one for their casting.
So it's a shorter rod.
Yes, but if you're talking about real BFS, right? You know, people will criticize, so you got to be careful now, because like I think those BFS rods are like, they're like 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet.
No way.
Oh yeah, they're little dudes. Yeah, you look up like dedicated BFS rods that some of these companies offer for like $150 to $300, and yeah, they're these little dinky rods, because you got to have you got to have that flimsy or that softer tip, because you want to be able to fling those lighter baits, right? If you got a stiffer rod, even something like Twitch rod, you can't really fling those lighter baits. It's almost like trying to throw an 1/8 ounce Texas rig on like a 7.6, like extra heavy fast. You know, you fling. So
I didn't realize they were so short. I guess it didn't really occur to me. I figured they were still in the standard lengths. That's something new for me. I didn't realize they were shorter.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have to cross check, right? We need.
All right. Well, something to look up later and see, because I didn't know that. I mean, I haven't started doing all of it yet, but I'm definitely going to. So that's something I didn't know that.
It's fun.
That'll be interesting.
$5 Walmart Zebco rod, right? And it's just like maybe 4 feet. It's just like a little flimsy thing. And I put it in there for a couple of videos, and it's almost like that is what is most beneficial to pair with that, or to pair that reel up with. It's really interesting.
Wow.
Just a real flimsy little sucker. So yeah.
That's got to be fun. I bet you that's an interesting fight. I'm interested. I'm like stuck on that short rod thing now, sitting here thinking about it. That's interesting to think about. So when it comes to like swim baits, we were talking about that a little bit ago. We can go back, try to get back there.
Yeah.
How big of a swim bait, like, I know sometimes you use big swim baits, but how big do you feel like is the best size swim bait to catch the most bass? Because I mean, I feel like there's always too big and then there's too small. You know what I mean? Where have you found like a happy medium or anything like that?
I think for us down here, you know, I'm going to reference a lot of the baits I use because that's what I throw. So I think
absolutely
4.8 inch saucy swimmer works great for me, but that could be like a 5-inch Kitech or whatever the equivalent is, right? You know, any little paddle tail kicking swim bait somewhere around that 5-inch mark, I think is going to get, because I know we've caught, it's confidence bait we've caught so many fish with. I think 1 pounders to double digits will hit the 5-inch mark right there. If you're up north, you got to downsize it, right? And you need to downsize a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like those 3.3s are really meant for trailers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about like those dedicated big soft plastic swim baits that we can get into in a second, it's a little different, right? You know, like 6 is kind of like
they're
small,
big.
6 inch is kind of like a small size.
Yeah.
8 is kind of like maybe the gold standard there, and then 10 is where you're starting to like, okay, now you're really just trying to target those big fish. Because, you know, like even an 8-inch mag draft, those little fish will attack it. 1.5 pounds.
Yep, absolutely.
I see that tail in front of them, they eat it. But yeah, for me, or for Devin and us in our videos, it's almost always that 4.8-inch saucy swimmer, oftentimes with an underspin, like a 1/4 ounce weighted belly hook with that blade on there for a little extra flash. Almost looks like a couple fish swimming together, right?
Okay.
That's just a confidence bait. It's pretty weedless. You can get through the grass. It's got all
Steady retrieve. Any kind of special cadence?
We throw it usually on like your 7.5 foot heavy fast type of deal, because we're going to have a beefier hook set, like a heavier hook set to drive that thicker hook home. Oftentimes. So yeah, even something like a 7 foot medium heavy fast action rod seems a little light for like that 5-inch mark, for that 5-inch swim bait application, because you really want that strong drive for the hook set. And that extra fast tip for us to link up with those fish and make sure they're pinned and not coming off the hook.
Yeah.
So that's our go-to setup. Probably that 7.5 foot heavy extra fast when we're launching.
And what kind of reel are you using on that?
For us, we've got a handful of Shimanos. I don't focus too much on the as far as the
speed ratio.
Yeah, gear ratio. Yes.
Gear ratio. There you go.
Almost all of our Shimanos are like their standard, like mid-range. I think it's like 7:2-1, right? That's on their medium range. And we just haven't deviated much. We'd really have almost no slower gear ratio reels.
Okay.
And one thing, I assume you're familiar with this too, right? Like if it's a larger spool reel, like if it's a 300 spool size,
right,
or,
right,
400 if you're getting real large,
big. Yeah, big.
Then the gear ratio actually means something different, right? Like a 7:1 gear ratio on a 200 size spool, compared to a 7:2-1 gear ratio on like a 300 size spool. You know, you're going to be bringing in more line on that 300 same gear ratio.
Right.
So I try not to get too lost in that, but we throw a lot of monos. So
they say that if your line isn't, or if your spool isn't full, then it affects your speed as well. As far as the actual gear ratio, it changes.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it changes too much until you really get low.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But for sure, if you do have a full spool on something like a 200, which holds a fair amount of line, you know, like Corrado 200. Very popular.
Yeah.
And then you got like half a spool on there, and you know you're not getting as long a cast, and you need to put some more line on your reel. You're definitely going to be changing up how quickly you bring your bait in for every full turn of the handle, just because there's less line on there. But you know,
all the technical stuff.
Yeah, all the technical. Who cares? I just like to get out there and catch fish, right? People can criticize all they want. You need to put new line on there. It's like, look, kid, I got like 10 different setups. I just grab and go for the video.
I'm just going as I'm going. I'm going to the bank reel. I wasn't thinking about doing that. I was just going to the pond today. I do that all the time. There's times where I'll sit in here and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to spool up tomorrow. Because if I keep fishing, it's going to run out of line. And then I'll go back out there and I'll find myself back out, and I'll literally throw it out, and then I'll be like, dang. Because I totally forgot that I even wanted to do that.
Cast all your line off and lose the bait. It's like it's
there
gone.
It goes. Bye. I have yet to do that. Knock on wood. But I have seen that happen.
It'll happen. It'll happen. Give it time.
Great.
But yeah, that's so. Anyways, what about you? What's some of your favorite stuff to throw up there?
So lipless crankbaits are probably my favorite. I've actually been talking about that more here the last few days, but yesterday definitely kind of confirmed it for me, because like I said, I caught my PB yesterday, and I literally just did one of these last night with Debo. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be funny the way these release, because they're going to be like weeks apart, but I'm recording like days apart. So, but last night I recorded with Debo and I was talking about it, and the lipless crankbait, specifically, I really like the Jinko. It's the trap line rip knocker. It's got a bluegill. It's a bluegill pattern that they have. It's got like a gold and purple. It's just something about it with the fish around here. I caught my first PB 5.3 at a pond right around the corner. And then yesterday, same thing as far as the lure. And I caught a 5.86 and then another 4 yesterday. So it's just, I'm just confident in that bait more than anything. I love lipless all around, but that one specifically is like one that I feel like I'm going to always have tied on. I can catch them all year round, I feel like, especially right now, because they're feeding up and they're coming up and they're wanting to feed. I mean, I really enjoy the lipless crankbait.
Yeah, it's almost like wintertime. You can go out and people will say jig the lipless out deep, right? It's kind of like the blade bait.
Do the yo-yo.
Depending on the size you're throwing, right? You might be able to catch some giants. And then spring and fall, I mean, just freaking throw it, right? Just spring and fall.
Freaking throw it and roll it in.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find them.
Summertime, that's when it can get tricky. Maybe you might have to, you hit that sunrise or sunset bite just right, and bam, you're in the money.
Yeah, summer's probably the toughest for sure.
you might have to get out there and just toss them Texas rigs again out deep or something. You might have to switch it up if you're doing pond type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
That's
remember
for sure.
that was one of like the later baits that I gained confidence in. It seemed like I could never fish it right. I felt like I wasn't reeling it fast enough and it was always sinking. And you know, you get used to some of these baits after you throw them a little bit, like, okay, you can have your rod tip up and reel it in and you're not hurting anything. It's like, you know, if situations call for it, you know, you can pass that thing out and you don't have to keep the rod down low. You know, you can keep it up high. Also, the yo-yo technique seems to keep it up high pretty well. It's really
it pops it up and then it like flutters down, you know, it almost slows it down when it comes back down. It's like when you throw it out there, it's like it'll fall straight down initially, but when it flutters, something with the water catches it right. You can feel it in the water. Oh, you know, it feels like a chatterbait almost. If anybody, you know, with that brrr, you know what I mean? You can feel that in the water.
And so when you were catching these big ones the other day, are you just doing a constant steady retrieve or are you doing that yo-yo?
I was doing the yo-yo. I actually I watch my videos. I like to do that. I'll look back on my videos to see what kind of retrieve I was using. And I was doing the yo-yo retrieve. I wasn't doing a slow yo-yo. I was doing it like this, and then I would, you know, bring it in, and then I did like this, and I popped it again, and she got me right at the edge. It was like I was coming in. I was like, I gave up on that cast. You know, when you get to a certain point, you're like, yep, I'm done. And I brought it up one more time and and you can see my whole rod tip just start taking off. It was great. So it was exciting. I just, like I said, I had confidence in the lipless as it was, but I have a whole newfound respect and confidence in it now.
Yep. I find the pause for me seems to be the best, right? You know, if it's like springtime and they're just chasing stuff, yeah, sure, just burn them. But
burn them in.
Yo-yo seems to be the way I catch them too. And you raise it up and it's kind of swimming towards you, right? It's kind of like fluttering towards you. But then on that pause and that little drop, it's like all of a sudden you just lean into it the next time to reel a little bit more and fish on, like
especially if you can find a bait ball. That's actually how I found the other one with my first one when I caught the 5.3. I found a bait ball, and I kid you not, I broke my PB 3 times that day. My current PB was like 3 pounds and some change. Then I caught one that was almost 4 pounds, a solid 4 pounds, and then the 5.3. And it's because they were all hanging out in the same bait ball right in front of me. And I saw them feeding, and it just dropped down and it got to the bottom. And when it looks, it's like I was saying in one of the videos I was doing, it literally looks like a bait fish that like gets knocked out or something, and it falls, and it's like it's dead. And the first thing a bass is going to do is just take it.
And you were fishing ponds or you were not?
Ponds. Yep. That's what I was doing.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Bank fishing. That's what I do the most is pond fish right now. I barely fish on big lakes, and it's not like I can't. I just have a lot of ponds around me. It's just more convenient, I guess, in that aspect. The closest lakes, like, you know, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that, which isn't like terrible, but it's, you know, I have a bunch of ponds that are like 5 and 10 and 15 minutes, and they're all just like right here, you know?
Yep. Love pond. Pond fishing is the way to go.
For sure. You can't beat it. You really can't. I think it's just, I don't know. There's just a passion there that I have for pond fishing. So,
I think even if we start doing all the tournaments in the future and having some more fun with the boat and doing more traveling and whatnot, always going to hit some ponds on the travels. Always going to be keeping it local and hitting some ponds here. You know, it's just too much fun.
Old school. That's just how it's supposed to go. It's how you're supposed to fish is from the ponds.
Some people don't have access to a lot of them.
Right.
Some people, you know, anything is just gated or private, and all they can do is go to those big open lakes, and then that's what they got. So it depends on where you're at.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely feel lucky for being, you know, actually the little town and little cities that I live in, we're known for the ponds that we have. We literally have so many around here. And I talk to a lot of people because, like I said, I was talking to Debo last night, and he's out in Iowa. And so when it comes to like big fish and it comes to like a lot of waters, that's not something like, it's just not a huge option for him out there. So I definitely feel lucky to live here in Georgia. I didn't realize it when I started fishing. I didn't realize how like lucky I was to be with bass fishing until I started catching more bass, and people were like, we don't have fish like that here. And I was like, I didn't know that, you know? So
Senor Bass, he's out there in Georgia, I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's
he's out here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting a lot more people too. I know that they have the big tournaments coming up for ML. Oh gosh, why is it not?
it's like
Oh yeah,
not clicking in
don't
my
be
head.
asking me about tournaments. You know, I'm a YouTuber, so
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I knew a lot. I've heard a lot of the creators. We're from Georgia. We're going to go to Lake Hartwell where they're having one of the tournaments. It's one of the weekends, and there's going to be a lot of creators that are from Georgia going there. So I might go pop in there and check it out because I'd like to meet more people in Georgia too, because that's, keep it local, kind of thing.
Yeah, collaborate when you can, right? That's
Absolutely.
Huge, growth. I mean, if you can be consistently collaborating with some folks in your area, I think it's just very powerful.
Yeah, it definitely.
I'm not doing enough collaborating right now. Yeah, every video I should be focused on going out with somebody and kicking it, having a good time, and helping to grow them as much as they might be able to do the same for me. It's give and take, right? So
it's always fun. Yeah, and it just kind of brings new I don't know, it kind of brings new, what's the word I'm looking for? Like good flavor to your channel. It always brings good spice and, changes it up for you. Cause it's like, I enjoy bringing people. I can't, I'm not in Texas right now and I'm not in Iowa or any other place, but like being able to actually collaborate this way is awesome because we're actually still getting to chit chat and we're actually still getting to meet each other. And, it's going to be great with all the people I get to meet and all the things I'm learning from this.
And I think it can be more powerful, right? Because, all they see is our fishing videos. Right. So maybe you want to know a little bit about us or behind the scenes or stuff about the creation process. And so I think these are great. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the one with Lojo is actually dropping tomorrow. And you're one of the only people I've told because we've talked about it. And so but tomorrow it's dropping and nobody can seem to guess who it is. I put like a blank on my story. I put like a blank over his face or whatever, or I did a reel or something. Yeah. And so like nobody can guess that it's him to say like at all. And I think it's because honestly, and my girlfriend and her brother agree, his voice is a lot different. It's not, I don't know. It's not like sounds different or anything, but it's like, Lojo, when he's doing his fishing videos, the guy's hype. He's always, going about it kind of thing. This guy on my video it's like the real Lojo behind the scenes kind of thing. A guy that I'm just chit chatting with on video. He's not out fishing. He's not trying to make it all about fishing. He's just being him. We're just chit chatting kind of thing. So it's kind of funny. And it's really get to know the background of people.
Yep. I bet the one with Debo was fun too. I learned a lot from him. He was big inspiration right off the bat for me. I mean, all
huge.
The tips, oh my God. His style of videos is so much different from mine. I cannot be as methodical and sharp as that man. And
he's so chill. And he's so chill. It's like, and he's super humble. He was like, we were talking about when we were meeting, and he was like, I think it's hilarious when people are like, oh my God, it's Debo. He's like, I'm just a guy in Iowa who fishes. Like, he's very chill and very humble. It was cool talking to him. We actually went over frogs. I still have some back there, but we went over frogs with him. And that was a lot of fun. He loved talking about frogs. He can talk about frogs for over an hour, and we almost got there actually. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I see like all his real maintenance videos and stuff. I've gotten countless amounts of invaluable information when it comes to fishing from that dude right there. And early on Instagram, he was like one of the first people with like a larger following to give me a shout out because he was like, he had a big page, and I'm telling you what, he would like give me a shout out. I was like, hey, what would you charge for a shout out? I was like new to the game. I had like no followers. And I didn't know the protocol or how the etiquette and to ask. And so I was like, what would you charge? And he just like gave me a little story shout out. And I was like,
oh, cool.
And this dude is legit.
Right? Yeah, right. Like, cool, man. It's really funny when you kind of are like first stepping into it and you kind of feel like everybody else is kind of a celebrity. And then you get into a conversation with them like we are right now kind of thing. And you're just like, you know what? People are just people too. You know what I mean? They really are at the end of the day. Lojo was so cool. Debo was so cool. Alex Rudd, all you guys have been so cool and just real, It's so a lot different.
Yep. Inspiring. Making us want to start a podcast, right?
Man, I'm going to.
About it. Everyone thinks about doing this these days, it seems like, and not a lot of people pull the trigger. So just having these conversations like you're doing is awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
I love the invitations if I ever get any, right? I've done one or two and I always enjoy it, but I'm too chicken to get something like this started. I guess it's like
it's so much. It was nerve-wracking, and it still can be. It's almost like, every time you really got to kind of plan for it, and life in general doesn't let me plan all the time, but it's fun to be able to sit down and talk to different new people. And like I said, I'm actually going to be trying to do a podcast too. I'm going to end up taking the videos and like ripping the audio and then trying to upload them to like Spotify and things like that. That would be, it's just more work that I got to take on, but I feel like it'll be worth it.
Where does this go? I thought this goes like, what would you call what we're doing then?
Well, this is what I'm going to upload. So have you seen any of the did you watch or see anyone with Alex by chance?
I've seen just clips that you've thrown out, but I haven't seen an episode. So I do need to be informed.
That's okay. So it's just basically what I'm doing so far. And tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow is going to be Lojo's. I just upload them to Facebook. It's on Zoom right now. And then I go through and I'll put it on my editing software. I'll put in an intro and outro, whatever. Yeah. And then I just upload it to YouTube. And that's how I'm doing it right now.
So they're on YouTube and your channel?
Yes, they are on YouTube and on my channel. That's how I'm doing it originally. And then I'm going to rip the audio too and then start doing them on like it'll be able to upload to like Spotify and Apple and all different kinds of places and just have it as an actual podcast too. But you can take the audio from these and do that way too.
Mm-hmm. Are you keeping like the original, like, you know, this recording like stored on a hard drive or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay. I have it all stored and all saved. I don't want anything. I always try to keep it separate. I actually got a bigger external hard drive about a month or so ago, just so I can make sure I have plenty of memory to make sure it stays on there, because that's always important.
I never held on to any footage except for my final edit, and a lot of my edits, you know, include music. And so it's like if I wanted just the raw clip of that catch from a year ago of this big fish and it had some goofy song I chose to use over it, right? Like I couldn't go back and use these older clips. So only, it seems like recently, but it's probably been a year or 6 months, 8 months, have I really gotten more external hard drives and started to store all of my footage, like the raw footage, which adds up quick, right? So I've started to store all my raw footage though. And so I've been using those SanDisk drives. I got one plugged into the computer.
I was just about to be like, I have one, this one right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I've got
same one.
Not this one.
This isn't the same one, but
I have those little SanDisk drives that are just like little solid state guys. You could like put it in your pocket. I mean, they're legit, but also they're kind of expensive. So it's like I have those to edit off of. After I go filming, what I've been doing lately is dumping the footage onto these external hard drives, and then I just edit in Final Cut off of the hard drive. So the footage doesn't really store on the computer at all. And I think there's advantages and disadvantages to that. It could be slightly slower depending on, I think a lot might have to do with the, you know, the hard drive itself. But I've been keeping all the raw footage on these hard drives. But like I say, these ones are kind of pricey. So it's like, you're not just going to buy these every 90 days or 6 months. So I have one bigger hard drive that's like cheaper. Jigging with Jordan recommended me do this, buy like a 6 terabyte, you know, cheap drive that's maybe not solid state that you can just keep maybe like at home or whatever. And every time I fill up one of these 1 or 2 terabyte drives, I just transfer all the footage and finished edits over to that 6 terabyte deal for like the long-term storage. And this is just the short-term, you know, to edit off of my current projects. So now we're talking about hard drives, but I think it's all valuable. You know, a lot of folks,
you know, everything we're talking about, you want to know, honestly, I'll be so honest with you. I'm sitting here like, I don't even know what I'm gonna title this video, to be honest with you, because we really have been jumping all over the place. But it's gonna be a Talkin Tackle, but I gotta figure out what about with Weston Smith.
just BSin with Weston. That's all.
BSin with Weston. There you go. We'll make it a Talkin Tackle.
I have so much interest in like the photography and video side of things and the editing, and I'm trying to improve on all of it right now. And so it's like I could talk about that stuff for days. And I think for the right person that watches this, they'll get a lot more value out of it than some of the fishing tips, because they can watch all these creators and get fishing tips every day. But I think the hardest part is maybe for the folks that want to actually make these videos.
Be the content creator.
It gets a little tricky, right? I mean, there's so many little things that if you add it up, all the hiccups you run into when you're making these videos, and lost footage and lost audio and messed up SD cards and batteries and all the things that you run into, it just
the mistakes that happen. Just listen now and try to avoid these mistakes. It's like run it when your battery dies and you only have like one. Don't do that. Make sure you have extra batteries. That's key. Or an external battery charger, which is what I use typically.
I do too. Yeah, I got, so like my full setup is right here in my little Adidas bag. So I got like, I keep it cheap on my big camera too. I got like this $50 mic.
Nice.
All right, we got the little video micro.
A
So
little setup. Hey,
we're breaking it out, ladies and gents. So we got the GoPros on deck.
we can do it. I don't have any of that down here. I have all the, I don't even really have much. I was, like I said, I wasn't sure where we were going to go with things, but I have all that upstairs.
So I think you probably use it for the same reason I do, and it's so that you don't have to switch out batteries every hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, buy a bunch of batteries, and I just buy cheap aftermarket ones. If I was going to go the battery route, there's a bunch of different off brands.
There's a bunch of different options, you know.
But then you got to buy new batteries every time a new GoPro is introduced now, because they're cramming different batteries in the thing. So it's like
they're trying to like get around that, kind of like when they change the plug on a phone. It's kind of like,
come on, man, my chargers don't work. None of this is
like, why are you doing this to me, making me spend this extra cash?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you knew this. This is off topic, but I edited all my videos on my iPhone too. I think a lot of people's first question is like, oh, I don't have a computer, or like, what do you edit with? And I'm like, dude, or whoever is hitting me up, I edited until 8,000 subscribers on my phone. And that's another reason why I didn't keep footage, because you know, you only got
you can only have so much memory. Didn't you have like an external plug-in thing or something for your iPhone?
Bam. So
do that.
so you're filming in your GoPro on a micro SD, right? But then a lot of these SD, you have an adapter. So I don't know if I got one. I don't know if I got one in here. I probably do. So yeah, this SD card that's in my big camera is actually a micro SD card, right? So you take this out of the GoPro, you put it in the adapter, you put that in the little lightning to SD card reader. You pop this in your iPhone, and you literally just transfer the footage to your camera roll, and you can edit off of the iMovie app or whatever.
That's cool.
And I did that for a long time. You know, Lunkers TV was really making fun of me. He said, dude, you need to be editing on a computer.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, you can't really, it's really tough to beat a computer when it really comes down to it. But to get an initial growth and everything like that, you can do everything just about on your phone nowadays, you know, even if it does mean you have to delete a lot of stuff as you go, because I mean, like you said, it's going to boil down to that at some point. When it comes to just working on your phone, you will run out of memory. That's just how that works. But you can definitely get started and start getting on a move with just your phone.
100%. Yeah, even if you don't do the same way I did for as long as I did, it's really valuable, because anybody can make a YouTube video and start editing next day, the way we do, you know, filming on a GoPro. Something like this. So
and then iMovie's free, right? It comes with your Apple.
Yeah, if on a Mac it is, I believe. On the iPhone, if it's not free anymore, I think it's like $5. But regardless,
it's not that much, right? That's comparatively to other software out there.
Yes, you go buy in Premiere, you're going to spend some money. You go buy in Final Cut, it was $2.99 when I bought it. I believe it's still.
Yeah, I use Filmora, and I think, God, I have to look. I don't remember, but it wasn't anything cheap. I bought the whole software, and I mean, and I love Filmora. It's good. It's good for. I think it's good for beginners too. I think it's got good advanced stuff. I need to watch more on how to take more advantage of the tools that I have with it. And then they have a monthly kind of thing you can pay for too, where you can get all these Premiere member kind of things, like different I don't know. I do that with Lightroom. All the bonuses.
I know what you're talking about. I do that with Lightroom, because a lot of my thumbnails, they start with me editing them on my iPhone. So I'll take the raw photos from the camera, and I will use that thing to transfer the photos to my phone, right? The high res good stuff, and then I will edit it on Lightroom. And there's some like selection tools and different color enhancements and things like that you can only do with like the, let's call it $5 a month version. It's
the Premiere version.
And it's worth it. Oh yeah, it's worth it.
Oh, it is. I use Lightroom too. It's Lightroom is very, very good especially for editing photos and high resolution photos.
Yes. In your videos, what are you using? You said
Filmora. Well, it's Filmora 10 or. Actually, I think it's Filmora 11.
Filmora, yeah, and that's on your computer. That's on your computer.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, they have the beta version right now, Filmora 11, but I don't notice much of a difference at this point.
Right. Yeah, for me on Final Cut, there was a recent update that I think people have been waiting for years, and it's tracking. So if you have a text that you want to be tracking to my face so that it moves around with my face, literally there's like a click easy click of a button. You kind of like set it around
follows you,
and it tracks it. And then
Yeah.
anything you add, whether it's text or an effect or you could put a little bait logo by your hand, it'll move with it. So yeah, that's been a long awaited feature that did cost a lot of money through plugins. Yes, I actually purchased a plugin. I think it was like $300 from a company called Motion VFX, and it was a tracker. And so you could do the same thing that now Final Cut allows you to do for free. And I bought it like 8 months to a year before this Final Cut update. I'm sure some people did it like a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
I literally just bought the tracker because Final Cut doesn't have it, and now they do. So yeah, it's great for everyone now. Now it's got
now everybody's got it, but
it's really good thing.
Lesson learned.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's kind of like that almost reminds me of like when like the original PlayStation or something like that releases, and it's like $600, and then like a year or two later you got the PS2, and so it's only like $100. It's not as much. It lost its value that quick, but at least you got your value. I mean, you use it a lot, I assume, or
are you talking about that plugin or what are you talking about?
The plugin that you paid for, that you said you paid for.
The one that I paid for, I don't use anymore because now Final Cut has it, and it's actually easier just because it's built in. They're both good, and potentially, I might be wrong here, but potentially the Motion VFX one might have even more options with it. And some people might argue whether it's better or worse at the moment, just because the Final Cut one is so new to the software. But I know it's good. I've been using it, and so I couldn't tell you. I can tell you I don't use it anymore just because the built-in one has been working.
So it works just fine.
Yes. For some reason, if I don't get a good track, for one, it's probably me and my selection, because you kind of got to have a contrasty area to like have it tracked accurately, right? Yeah. But if I did notice it wasn't doing a very good job, I might just grab that Motion VFX and drag it onto the clip and then tie in whatever I wanted to tie in with it. Yeah. Like in a recent video, I think it was a drone shot looking down over the lake and the boat, and we kind of like drove under a bridge on the boat. We like went under a bridge. And on the bridge, as we passed it, it said like Texas, like East Texas Lakes or something like that.
Okay.
Like the text stayed on the bridge because it was tracking a spot on the bridge as we were going over it. So it just looked like this text was on the bridge as we were.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's like an example of what you could use it with, as well as just like, maybe saying, this is my new reel, and you could give details to the reel and it would like follow it as you're
on it.
If you're like introducing a reel or something or whatever.
That's cool. No, I mean, that's a really cool effect. I like that. I really wouldn't have known even where to start, because I've seen what you're talking about, like on the bridge and how you've done text like that. And I've seen other creators who've done things like that, and I wouldn't have even known where to start with that. So that's cool.
A lot of it's come from my switch over to Final Cut, because now it offers so much more capabilities. I use a lot of these little zoom transitions, and like when I was using iMovie, there's almost a way to imitate it. And you know about a Ken Burns where you can slowly zoom in. Like you can slowly kind of like zoom in.
Yeah, like with the
you can kind of adjust it through like the little crop setting. Well, if you do that Ken Burns effect for like a 0.1 or 0.2 seconds, so it's only a couple frames, and you zoom it all the way into like the very center of the clip, it gives you that same zoom. And if you like had a little sound
real
effect,
quick,
you can make it look just like pretty close to just like some of these really advanced transitions, the zoom transitions. So I was doing that on iMovie. You can max out those basic editors for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you can get a lot out of them. It's a matter of where your passion's at, like I've noticed, with you've definitely been, up in your game when it comes to editing. You put a lot on your story, and you show a lot of all the little, things that you do for editing. So I know that's definitely something you're passionate about. And if you got a passion for it, then it makes that much more sense on why you would want to get a more advanced software, because it's up there with what you're wanting to do with your editing skills.
Honestly, what bums me out too about it is like I could put out a video talking about the editing process and what I've learned, and just trying to help people with the same stuff I've had to watch 10 videos to maybe then put together in one video for our fans.
Right.
And it's like it just doesn't do well, and it doesn't get pushed out, and it's like
that's because you're a fisherman. That's what YouTube wants from you.
Exactly. And so then it's tough to like make one of those, not because it's putting out something that I would love to show, but then because it will affect even like my next videos potentially, because I'm throwing off the whole algorithm. And it's like, I want my fishing videos to do good, then I also want those previous uploads to do well. So it's been a battle of like, what should I post?
Well, they even say at that point, you know, it's maybe at that you gotta maybe consider making another YouTube channel that's dedicated to just
Yep.
content creation and how you do it and the little tricks and tips that you've learned, you know, because even though it's fishing, you can learn how to do photo transition or whatever you have to do with whatever your niche is, you know, whether it's taking pictures of a fishing lure, or if it's taking a picture of a water bottle, you know what I mean? Like, it's all, you know, the editing is the same, you know, the transitions and all that, they're all the same, even though your niche may be different. So
That's 100% true. And I'll tell you what, we're talking a lot about editing, and I don't want to go too far off the fishing. So if you got more fishing questions, I'd love to.
So you said earlier, yes, so you said earlier something about getting into bigger swim baits. What bigger swim baits were you talking about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so like basically our introduction to bigger swim baits comes from a guy down in Austin, Texas, Jared Swafford.
Okay.
And so he gave us a Citizen 6, which is this working class zero swim bait. And it was a 6-inch swim bait. And I was like, I ain't catching nothing on this because fish don't eat these big baits. So I'm not going to get a bite. I'm like, this is what's going to bite this. And like, it's funny, but after you start throwing those larger swim baits, you realize that like a 6-7-inch bait is really like a bite-sized morsel for these like even 2-pound bass. They're munching these things, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so crazy. But so we started throwing, I would say, those Citizens pretty consistently for a while, and then we ended up getting another bait that was about I think it's probably about 8 inches in length, soft plastic swim baits. You're using those big like beast hooks, the owner hooks.
Big ones.
And exactly, and those things get munched, and it's like, what on earth? So
how big can you go?
Yeah, how big can you go? I think 10 inches is probably a pretty common large swim bait for even the swim bait community. You know, those guys that are throwing the big swim baits. I think a 10-inch mag draft is a great example just because they've been around and they're tried and true. And so like a 10-inch mag draft is going to get bit if you throw it in front of those giant fish, right? So that's probably as big as I would go most frequently.
I got you.
Feel very confident throwing like those 7 and 8-inch soft plastic swim baits, though. It's really crazy because you don't have that confidence going in. And then you start to think about, like, even when you go to these ponds, you're like, you know, the bass are eating these bluegill. And these bluegill they're not the size except for when they're the babies.
When they're babies,
big old things, and they're vertical too. So
they're gonna choke on it.
Don't realize that you're missing out by not throwing these swim baits, and especially coming up here, you know, like we're March is right around the corner, and you better be ready with some like Jackal Gantrell Juniors and little that was a very early confidence swim bait for us, because I think that guy's maybe 4.5 or 5 inches, a hard plastic bluegill swim bait, and that thing gets bit, man. In the spring, forget about it. So yeah, that thing's going to be getting broken out a lot here soon. Cool. And those are awesome. But soft plastic's probably like 8 inches, just confidence, getting it done.
What kind of setup are you throwing that on? As far as like the 8-inch, the bigger ones, the bigger plastic ones, what are you throwing that on?
Yep. Really, we only have one good setup for it. We bought these St. Croix. I want to say it's a 710. I don't think it's 8 foot flat. It's a 710, like extra heavy. Basically, it's like an A-rig and swim bait, like larger dedicated rod. And I want to say it's rated 1 to 4 ounce. It might be 2 to 4. I think it's 1 to 4 ounce. So, you know, you could probably, you punch with it. You could throw some big, heavier, like flipping setups on it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're throwing those baits on. And then if it gets to a point where the bait is more than 4 ounces, we literally have like 2 off the wall, just random rods. I think really only one, like 8 foot or 8'6".
Wow.
Brand, I forget. It's Jake on Fishing. He traded me for one of my spinning rods I had that was like an expensive Shimano rod, and we kind of just traded for this big swim bait rod he had, because it throws baits up to like 8 ounces, I want to say.
Wow, that's big.
That's a big bait.
Yeah, that's big.
But I did need a rod like that because I was throwing around that Ghost for a while. We had purchased one of those DRT Ghosts, which I think with the soft plastic tail, it's a hard plastic multi-jointed swim bait. And it's like, it is the screen. it's I think 15 inches with the V tail, right? That little soft tail at the end. So you ain't messing around when you throw that thing. And that's when I had to use that rod right there, because I was afraid of snapping anything else. Even
did you catch anything with it?
It took a long time. But out there at Toby's place in Oklahoma, Battle Springs Ranch, we found some ambitious youngsters. They were only like a couple pounds. They were
Hey.
as big as the bait, and they
Wow.
so I caught 2 fish on that ghost. But going back to Jared though, if folks want to check him out, I don't know if you've seen his stuff. Oh, beast with the swim baits. Anyways, we'll talk more about it.
Yes, I've heard of those. Yeah.
Yeah, so he just caught a couple double digits, and if not a handful that are in that range.
Wow.
But he did for sure catch 1 double digit on Lake Austin with the ghost, and I believe he may be the first person in the United States to catch a double digit on the DRT ghost.
Wow.
And, yeah, because not a lot of people are throwing them for one, and
well,
the people
yeah.
are throwing them, they might throw it here and there and break it out when they're feeling good, but he has got that dedication to the big baits. That's all he throws. He does not throw a Texas rig. He does not throw a jig. He does not throw conventional tackle. He only goes out with big baits.
Yeah, you run into some of those anglers sometimes, and there's a lot of those big swim bait only anglers. I mean, I've ran into a few of them, and that's all they're gonna throw. They're dedicated to throwing it, and they think it's like almost its own type of fishing in its own, it's its own little branch there. You got big swim bait fishermen. That's all they're going to throw. They're not going to throw anything else.
For sure. Exactly what you said. They feel like it's a different branch oftentimes, right? Because that's all they're doing. There's some folks like me who would just love to kind of throw it all, right? And
right.
So we'll dabble. But yeah, mad respect for all those guys and gals out there throwing just the big swim baits on those.
Right, and then catching them left and right, and you're just like, how are you doing that?
What is going on out here? But you start to understand though after you start throwing them, right? So yeah, shout out to Jared because he got us interested in throwing those bigger baits, and really after fishing with him a couple times instilled the confidence. So now whenever I go out and someone has never thrown anything bigger than like a 4-inch bait, something kind of common, just the usual casting. And I say, well, hey, throw this like a 5-6 inch bait, and they're thinking they're not going to get bites. You can instill that confidence in them if you go out there and you catch one right in front of them on it, and they're like, oh, okay, let me tie it.
All right, let me try it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, maybe they have a 2 or 3 fish outing or more, but like let's say they get a couple fish, they're getting bites. Then all of a sudden it's like game time, and they're like us. They're the people who are new to it, and then they want to start throwing those big
newfound confidence.
Breaking out the swim baits is always a good time, especially with the folks who haven't thrown it, because it's just most people don't have a rod to throw the heavy stuff. And you make do until that point. I was just like being easy with my cast.
Yeah, let me not break my rod.
I had like a 7.5 foot rod probably, but it was for maybe your jigs and whatnot. It was like rated to maybe 3/4 ounce or an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half. Regardless,
you're pushing it, right? You're pushing
those
it.
2 or 3 ounce baits on there, and you're like, okay, finesse with the cast and making sure you break and stuff.
It's like, can I even get it to swim to me?
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt. So big swim baits, it's definitely a learning curve there, just like the rest of fishing in itself. That's a whole category. But we enjoy throwing the big baits when we get the opportunity, because we don't always go out there with that gear.
Yeah, hard plastic swim baits for me are something I'd like to get more confident in for sure. I've got a few of them, and I've thrown them, and I like the way they swim. I haven't really caught anything much on them, but I also haven't put them in my hand long enough to say that I've really dedicated the time to it. And, I can say that with the smaller size on the swim baits, as far as plastic swim baits go, I've definitely used the Saucy Swimmer and the Exo Swim, and, the other ones that are out there, the Dart. I love the Dart. If we're considering that in the swim, I would consider it's a fluke style, kind of. Well, you froze there for a second.
I saw that. They make those in 7 inches as well, though, I believe. So it's like, you have a larger option, right? So, so back to the hard plastic swim baits. Like, it kind of depends, because if it's like a multi-jointed hard plastic swim bait, right? Like 2 joints in that sucker, then you're swimming it back, and he's got some real crazy
wave.
Swimming. It's going to be fantastic and phenomenal in spring and in the fall. But I think right now, as the water's still cooler, right? You're going to be throwing those big baits and those big hard plastic baits. I think it's best to throw the glides. You're going to catch them on the
glides, the ones that are the jointed ones, right? Just the one joint.
Single joint. Yeah. So some of them are really just designed to go really wide and cover a lot of ground and really bring those fish in from far distances. And some have more of a tighter glide, but at the same time, they're a little bit slower moving, oftentimes slower sinking. And so you can get those curious larger fish to actually commit when normally if you're throwing a multi-jointed hard plastic swim bait, you kind of got to work it a little faster because typically those ones are going to sink faster on you. So yeah, in order to slow it down enough in those cooler water temps, like I said, you'll catch fish with a multi-jointed, or you'll find that reaction strike here and there. But I do think that those slower moving baits are going to be better for like right now. So maybe go out there and what's the popular one? Just like an S-Waver.
S-Waver, yeah, that's the one. The S-Waver is what I think of. I don't know. There's probably, I mean, there's other ones out there. But yeah, that's the one that comes to my mind is the S-Waver there.
I caught my 7-pound PB on a cheap Molix. It's like $18. You know, inflation these days is probably 25.
Right. Yeah, right. With the way everything else is, I mean, gas is getting up to $4 and $5.
That is true. So I caught my current PB on a Molix, like a trout color, and I really don't throw trout colors, but bass love it. They're munching on the trout.
That's so interesting to me. I've never thrown a trout pattern, but I've heard that more than once that they like trout pattern, and I'm just, you know, I'm gonna have to try it one of these days. That's very interesting.
Yeah. You got to, because they're all about them, and I know like they do stock trout in some areas around us, like they'll stock, because down here it's warmer and they can't survive year round, and so down here, they get stocked in like right about this time of year. You know, maybe they start some of them in December, but usually they kind of wait until January, maybe February, potentially as late as early March, and they'll stock a few thousand 1-pounders to maybe you'd get lucky with like a 3. That'd be like the unicorn, but you know, probably 1 to 2 pound trout, and by the thousands into some of these ponds, and you got a few good weeks to go out there and catch them, and they want you to just keep them, cook them, and you know, have that experience rather than release them back just to not make it throughout the summer.
Right.
So you got to think these bass, some of them have seen these things and like, that's a delicious little morsel.
Makes sense.
So, right about this time of year. So if you're in our area, you know, like Texas, you might actually start throwing the trout right now. Those trout.
There you go. I didn't know that. Good tip there. I mean, I'm not in Texas, so I don't know how. I wonder, you know, I guess there's got to be sites out there that tell you where they do things like that. Yeah.
If you get on Google and look up Texas trout stockings or stock a trout schedule or whatever, and it tells you by the city, well, it tells you the specific pond, but it's kind of like categorizes it, I believe, by county or city, and you can see the date that they schedule the drop in for the trout at those spots, and you go out there and have a heyday. Usually like the weekend that they drop them in, like that first weekend after, if they don't drop them in on a, you know, Saturday, Sunday, it's like, I mean, the place is stacked, you know, because people do have that schedule, that list out there online for them to check out. So it's pretty cool.
All right. So we've been recording, I think, for about a little over an hour now. It's still saying it's recording, and I'm lucky here so far. Zoom told me at one point that I can only do 45 minutes. People are going to get tired of seeing this at the end of my video because I say it in every one of them. But I've been lucky for some reason. It's been recording more than 45 minutes, and it's been going over an hour, but I don't want to over push it. So one last question before we get off here. This year with fishing, with it becoming the new season and everything like that, what is one rig, if you could pick just one, and I know that's hard because it's hard, but if you could pick one rig that you really want to build a lot of confidence in that you haven't yet, what rig would that be?
Wow.
Yeah, welcome to it. I'm gonna start asking this question.
I never throw the Tokyo rig. I don't know if I even want to gain confidence in it. I'll throw it here at some point, but
I like the Tokyo rig. I've caught a fish on the swim it deep. I tell you what, that's, you know, what got me is I swam it on some of the deepest water and I got it right at the bottom.
Maybe Carolina. No, an A rig. I never throw A rigs.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's catching these behemoths on A rigs. I got to get a little taste. Maybe that's what I'll do. Is I'll break out the A rig. It seems like so many people are catching giants, and right now seems to be a fantastic time to throw it. I might just have to do you have spikes on you.
There you go. So like in 6-7 months from now, I'm gonna get you back on here, and we're gonna be talking about how you're catching fish on the A rig.
Yeah, I got that. We're talking about the St. Croix rod we have for it, bigger swim bait. We have one A rig. It's not at the house. It's in the boat in storage. So I got to go break that thing out.
Is there a hook? Is there a hook limit there in Texas? I didn't think
there probably is. I got to do my research. See, I don't have the confidence yet.
See, here in Georgia, there's not a hook limit because I wanted to check that out. Here in Georgia, we're one of the few that does not have a hook limit here. So we get to go with all 5. We get to go as however many we want. We have no limit.
I would like to say here is less strict than other places too, but I'm gonna do my research real quick because, like I said, this one was actually given to us by a friend who fishes them a lot. So I've tied it on like once.
There you go.
And I knew how many hooks it had on it that day because I was checked it, but I've done forgot because it's been over 6 months and I threw it once. So I need to break that thing out.
There you go.
Some big old wintertime giants before it starts to creep up in temperature.
All right. So the next time we're talking, we're going to talk about how you've used the A-rig.
That's a deal. I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate it so much. I'm looking forward to it too. I know that we're going to do this again sometime. And I've been, like I said, I'm grateful for you grateful for that you joined me tonight. Sorry. I have like that ADHD mouth too. That's one of those things that we get along with. But thank you so much for joining me tonight, and everybody else. I'm looking forward to doing it again. I hope you had a good time. So
it's been a blast. Yeah, and I wish you success with this too. I'm looking forward to everybody you got on here, and I appreciate the invite and you having me on here. So hopefully we'll be doing this again shortly with a little A-rig catch to throw in the mix.
Yeah, we'll definitely maybe we'll narrow it down to like just talking about the A-rig. I doubt it though. If you watch this one and you've watched it this far, then I doubt we're just going to talk about one thing.
Am I going to challenge you then? Are you going to try and throw something with some confidence? Is there something you're looking forward to?
Oh, you can throw me there. How about I can try an A-rig too? Because that's one I've been wanting to do more too.
Okay.
So we're gonna both try the A-rig more this year, and we're gonna come around back and we're gonna talk about it later this year, and we're gonna see what we've learned and all that fun nitty gritty stuff.
That's the deal. I'm doing
Sounds
my
like a plan. All right, Weston, man, I appreciate it. I will talk to you next time, and we'll talk then. All right.
All right. You have a good night. Everyone else.
You too. Bye.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Yes, as you can tell, I am in different attire in my intros and outros. That's because I'm really terrible at doing my intros and outros while I do my talks. But I do come out in the garage, and I do tend to shoot a few of them at once. And if you can tell, there's, that's kind of giving you a clue on what we're going to be talking about in the next few videos. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, turn on all your notifications. Weston, man, thank you so much for joining me. That BSin with Weston, that title, man, was perfect. And I appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime. But anyway, guys, you guys know how it goes. We're out there fishing. We're out there catching. We're out there just BSing with Weston. No complaints.
Behind the scenes.
With Weston Smith.
Dope. Can't wait for this video to drop.
In like 8 minutes.
And get to talk to Weston.
Yep. Oh, cool. I've been talking to him for a little while, so it's gonna be cool to actually see him and meet him.
Right? I'm excited to meet him too.
Buddy, what do you got?
I like Weston. I think Weston was like one of the first people that I got into, that I started following.
Yeah,
when you started really fishing and stuff, he was one of the first. He was the first one I started watching. So I'm excited too.
Been watching him for a good year or so now. Dedication.
Yeah.
Is where to get you.
Yes.